Procter and Gamble was known for the creme de la creme of training and
Yeah.
development. A lot of those managers brought that over to Beecham. So I was fortunate. I had
Mhm.
a structure. We had 10-step call procedure, 4-part presentation. We were trained on how to handle objections.
Yeah.
And that really kicked off my career and my love of training and development. My understanding, not only my love for it, but my understanding of its importance in people's success.
So welcome to the Meaningful Jobs podcast season 2. I'm your host, Adrian, and today I'm extremely honored to welcome Steve Garatorta to our podcast. How are you, Steve?
I'm well, yourself?
Very good, thank you. So I believe you
Good.
were involved in sales for a long time before you then set up your own training and speaking consultancy, two decades ago already. So can you maybe tell us a little bit about, your whole career briefly?
Yeah, don't remind me how old I am. Holy smoke.
Well,
Time's going fast.
you might have set up your career firm really early in your career, though.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I actually went to work 2 weeks after college graduation. In hindsight, I'm not so sure. It probably would have been good to take a little extra time, but the company I was working for that recruited me needed me pretty quickly, and I was ready to go. I was living at my parents' house, and my father was,
Right.
pushing me out the door after 4 years of college. But my first job out of college was within what's called the consumer packaged goods industry. I
Right.
worked for a company at the time. It was called Beecham Products. They were actually UK based, but they had a presence in the United States.
Yeah.
And one of the products that we manufactured was Aquafresh toothpaste. So basically, I started a job in what was called a retail territory, and I
Mm.
would go to grocery stores and sell our products
Right.
beyond Aquafresh. There were several others too, but I would sell our products, and
Right.
that's where I first learned about selling skills,
Mm.
communication skills, handling objections, and things of that nature. I was fortunate because Beecham products, a lot of their upper level management were former Procter and Gamble employees.
Right.
And
Right.
into the day, Procter and Gamble was known for the creme de la creme of training and
Yeah.
development. A lot of those managers brought that over to Beecham. So I was fortunate. I had
Mhm.
a structure. We had 10-step call procedure, 4-part presentation. We were trained on how to handle objections.
Yeah.
And that really kicked off my career and my love of training and development. My understanding, not only my love for it, but my understanding of its importance in people's success. And
Right.
from that job, it exploded into other jobs, up the corporate ladder within Beecham Products and other consumer packaged goods companies for about 21 years.
Hmm. Well, so you must be really skilled at what you do, and then I guess with your sales skills, you then started your own company. Could you tell us a little bit about the transition you had? Like, was it difficult?
Yeah, well, yes and no, because it didn't
Mhm.
necessarily happen right away. I had, like I said, 21 years in corporate America. 18 of those were very good. The
Right.
last three, I was really wanting to leave and start my own business, a consulting business, because several things. Well, the prime one was my love for coaching and development, coaching,
Yeah.
training, and development. As I said earlier, I started off with Beecham Products and worked with several companies where training was key. And as
Hmm.
I progressed through corporate America, a
Hmm.
lot of the external consultants that my companies would bring in, one to train us or teach us leadership skills or selling
Yeah.
skills. They didn't understand our business and the skills weren't relevant.
Right.
And I started thinking to myself, boy, I mean, wonder how much that guy or gal's making. I can make
Yeah.
more money and make that money and do a heck of a better job, because the key to good training development is understanding who you're working for, their needs, and
Hmm.
building relevant training development programs to meet those respective needs.
Hmm.
That's when training sticks. If,
Right.
if it
Right.
doesn't resonate, if you don't understand our business, we're going to tune out. We're not going to see how these skills are going to connect to, being
Mm,
successful in a given job. So
mm,
with that said, I had probably 18, 17 years, maybe even earlier, that had a deep love of training development. And my
right.
mentor who hired me at Beecham Products started his own consulting company. I kind of wanted to follow his path
Mm.
in leaving corporate America. And I did actually. I left cold turkey.
Understood. Based on my own experience, I guess the most difficult part of starting a business is, finding the clients, because that's where your, revenue comes from. No matter how good you are,
No
it's
doubt.
hard to find those clients who trust, what you're delivering. So,
No doubt.
would you say that's one of the most difficult bits of, starting a business based on your own experience as well?
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. The top three things what tell my customers, and it's for my business too, the three most important things for any business is number one, driving top line sales or cash flow.
Mhm.
Without cash flow, you can't pay bills, you can't
Right, right,
investment spend. That's where, to
right,
your point, those new customers come in. Number two is being profitable. You want to make money, but you want to keep, a decent amount of that. And then thirdly is what's your growth objectives. So those are the three objectives that I set off to focus on, and so that cash flow is huge. I had a couple things going for me. One, I was in corporate America for 21 years, so I had good savings to fall back on. Number one.
right, right.
Number two, I started immediately hitting my contacts within consumer packaged goods. That's where I had the quickest, the most skills. I knew how to connect the dots. I knew the needs. So I started immediately hitting other contacts, friends of mine, former employees, former employers in other companies. And that's where I started reaching out, number one. Number two, I did a lot of upfront hired gun work. What I
Mm,
mean by that is I built relationships with several consulting firms who did training and development, but they were bigger than me, but they needed someone to come in and actually deliver the training. So
mhm,
I was able to build some relationships there and start doing a lot of training with other companies,
mhm.
honing my skills, making some
Right,
revenue until I got a name for myself. One of which was a company out of the UK called Glendenning.
right,
So
right,
that's how I kicked in and was able to get that revenue, get a name for myself. And
right.
after you get a name for yourself, if you're good enough, and my business is 90% word of mouth. So
Right.
once you get a name for yourself, once you're getting that revenue, once you get a reputation, hopefully people, make recommendations word of
Mhm,
mouth and things of
mhm.
that nature. So that's kind of how it kicked off initially for me.
I see. So, yeah, I really agree about the part where you said, word of mouth. I think, you can only do so much marketing or so much initial sales. You really need to build that, reputation to have, a long-term business. Um, Based on your experience, how do you find, first of all, meaning in work as like a sales representative? Because sales is notorious for being one of the industries that has the highest turnover. So
Yeah.
how do you find meaning in the work you do and keep yourself going?
I'll speak personally,
Right.
because each person's different, but I have to feel comfortable and really believe in what I'm selling.
Yeah.
Because if I don't believe in it, the passion is not there. So I've
Mm,
been fortunate. Again, 90% of my time in corporate America, I was passionate about what I was selling. I believed it was a great product. I believed the product and service would actually help someone. I love helping
yeah.
people. I love solving problems. I like helping my customers succeed, and it
Mhm.
makes me feel like I've succeeded. So, the number one thing I think you need to find passion in what you're selling. If you don't believe in it, you're not going to be able to a good salesman. Towards the end of my career, that's what happened to me. I didn't care. I didn't feel
Mhm.
passion for what I was selling because I actually wanted to go sell my capabilities in,
Right.
in a training business. So you have to have that passion. You have to believe in what you're selling. You have to want to do that. That'll help you overcome objections. If you don't feel passionate about what you're selling, when a customer says no, you're going
Mm,
to fold because you don't
right.
care.
Right. Right. So, yeah, I think you said, having this passion is really important. But then, it sort of, curtailed a little bit after, 20 years. Would you say it's because you you wanted to start your own business, or was it because it's too much of a grind, you think?
Oh, no doubt. I wanted to start
Mm.
my business. I was passionate about. I had played
Mm.
around. I actually left corporate America probably for about 3 months. I chickened out
Yeah.
and went back in, so,
Oh, okay.
I didn't have the guts to do it. Leaving a corporate job when you have a nice
Yeah.
base salary, you have a company car, you have a 401k, your
Yeah.
insurance is paid for. It's hard. It's
Well,
uncomfortable
that's
to
why I
leave.
get mad when sometimes when people brand, having a sales job as starting a business, because it's not the same when you don't have a base salary.
Oh, it's no doubt about it. But the key is this: I make more money on an hourly basis by far than
Mm.
I ever did in corporate America. And I was getting paid well in corporate America.
Right.
But it's uncomfortable and not have that steady revenue coming in. Even to this day, since COVID, things have been a little out of sorts in training development. Companies
Yep.
aren't investing as much as they used to. They don't have the money to do it. They don't see the need to do it. So, even after owning my business 20 years, it's still uncomfortable to some extent with the staggered cash flow. It might be
Right.
light this month, but you're going to get it back in fourth quarter. But it's
Right.
still something to get used to that, it's not for the faint of heart. You have
Yeah.
to really love what you do. There's nothing else I want to do on earth than train and develop and
Right.
help people with my business. And again, that passion
Mhm.
drives through any fears anymore. So
Mhm. Can you tell us, more about how you think you help people based on your sales experience? Because I think that's, a recurring theme that you brought up.
yeah, the reason I'm so passionate about training development is multiple reasons, but the prime one is I originally struggled when I was working with Beecham. I had
Right.
a bad manager who wasn't training me properly, and
Right.
after about 8 months, I was dejected. I had no confidence. I wanted to quit. I wanted to go work for someone else.
Right.
And I had a meeting with the gentleman I told you was my mentor, which was a gutsy move because he was a high level guy. And I said to him,
Right.
I'm not happy. I feel terrible. Can you help me get another job? I want to leave this Beecham, but um, I don't know what to do. So he goes, I'll see, I'll help you. Don't worry about it. Unbeknownst to me, he went to my manager and
Right.
said, put another person with Steve. We hired him. We know he can do the job. Get him some damn training. So
Right.
I had a new manager over me who was fantastic at training development and got me up and running in about 3 months, and my career
Right.
exploded from there. So
Right.
my passion behind this is the realization: what would have happened in my life
Hmm.
if that didn't happen and I left and went to another company and maybe my same thing happened? I didn't have any confidence, or I failed again, or I didn't, it could have been a snowball in the negative direction. Instead, it was
Right.
a snowball in a positive direction because I was trained properly. I had the skills for success. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. I published a book. I'm not sure if you know this. It's called In Defense of Adversity: Turning Your Toughest Challenges into Your Greatest Success. In that book, I talk about two important parts of our brain: the limbic system, which is known as our emotional brain.
Hmm.
It's what we're born with. It does not grow, transform, or evolve. When we are functioning in our limbic system part of our brain, our response to, like, especially adverse situations, is going to be freeze, fight, or flight, emotional. It's not helpful. The
Right.
other part of our brain is called the cortex. That's our rational brain. That's where reason, logic lie. That the cortex does grow, transform, and evolve through time,
Right.
through education, and through training and development.
Hmm.
So I look at training and development as building someone's cortex muscle for success.
Hmm.
So, as an example, I work with sales personnel who have never handled objections before. If you know what an objection is
Yeah.
for your listeners, that's basically a customer saying no, or they have a question, they're not agreeing to what you're saying.
Hmm.
If a salesperson is not trained properly in how to handle an customer objection, they may start panicking. They'll get angry and push back. They'll get defensive, or they'll shut down and clam up. That's because now they're functioning in the limbic part of their brain
Right.
because they don't have skills for success in handling objection. Through teaching people a three-step process that I teach on how to handle objections, we're
Mm,
building people's cortex muscle for success. So when an objection comes,
mhm,
they know what to do. Does that make sense?
mhm,
So it's not just about you're not trained well. There's brain science behind not being trained properly for
mm,
success in given jobs. That's why I'm so passionate about this. That's why I get so frustrated when companies don't embrace training or they don't see the value in it, because there's a direct correlation between someone's success and the training
mhm,
and development they have. Look at any sport, for God's sake. Teams practice, they scrimmage, they learn skills every year, just within a new season. Why don't we do that in business?
mhm.
Doesn't make sense. So there's a lot of passion behind that as well too. I
Well, I
hope that
guess
answered your question. I went long-winded, so I hope that
it's completely
makes sense.
fine. I love passionate answers. Um, I, I I was about to ask a question about, in response to the part where you said that a lot of companies don't embrace training enough, because I think I read somewhere where there's a statistic about the effectiveness of training, and it seems that a lot of uh, people being trained don't find training that effective. So, based on your perspective, you know, is there any particular reason behind this, you think?
Well, I think, as I talk, three most important overarching objectives of any company's top line sales, cash flow, profitability, and growth. They look at sales as the easiest thing to cut when cash flow's not happening, or when business isn't positive, or they're not making the connection between how training helped enhance cash flow or
Yeah.
top line sales or profitability. Those are the dots I try to connect with my customers. It's not just I'm going to deliver a sales workshop today. What I'm going to do is deliver a program that's going to help your sales team drive your top line sales, profitability, and market share. That's the
Right.
connection they have to make, because they don't see that. They see it as an investment spend, and they're not connecting the dots between that and the overall importance of growing their business. Another part of that is tying into the cost associated with unhappy employees or frustrated employees, because there's a heavy cost associated with that.
Yeah.
Most companies don't even know the cost associated with a high turnover rate,
Hmm.
not hiring the right people or not training the people properly. That hits the bottom line. That's your profit.
Hmm.
So I think a lot of companies aren't connecting the dots between the importance of how training and development help them accomplish their objectives
Hmm.
and meet their strategic objectives as well too, if that makes sense.
So, just before, we end the interview, I just want to ask about, you know, how you would advise people who are at the moment struggling in their careers. Like, what kind of advice would you give them to help them, in the decision-making process, do you think?
Yeah, try to seek out what their passion is. Find out what they're passionate about. I think something I use in my business, I use an array of behavioral, personality, or EQ based assessments to help people understand, their passions, their skills, their strengths, potential weaknesses, and then in turn try to align their career pathing towards skills that best meet their needs.
Right.
So hypothetically, let's say I'm a highly introverted person. No, let's go the flip side. Let's
Hmm.
say I'm a very gregarious person. I'm
Right.
highly competitive. I'm
Yeah.
aggressive. I'm a type A personality. Yet I'm stuck in a role where I'm working behind a desk with
Right.
no people interaction. That could be very frustrating for me because I need that people interaction side.
Hmm.
So I think taking some behavioral assessments, gaining as much self knowledge as
Hmm.
people can about themselves, what's their strengths, what their weakness, what are their passions, and best find careers that meet those respective passions. Because as I say, if you can align your career, your job to
Hmm.
your passions, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Right.
And
Right.
I've been fortunate. I've been at this almost 40 years. Man, it's probably been over 40, I'm embarrassed to say. About 90% of that time, it's been aligned passion. And that's huge. That 5 or 10% where I was not aligned was horrible. and so I can empathize with people struggling. So you have to do some self-reflection for yourself, both maybe through assessments and
Hmm.
also just maybe hiring a coach to
Hmm.
help guide them towards finding what their real what
You
their
know,
niche is in life.
based on my experience, a lot of people would say a lot of things like I want to follow my passion, but it seems like it's harder. It's easier said than done, for some reason. Um, how did you find your passion that early on, you think?
Well, I mean, it happened by chance for me. I'm very fortunate. I guess towards the end, I realized I needed to align the rest of my career around that because I wasn't getting it. But my desire to help people, my desire to train people to be successful came through my training at Beecham, through that experience I told you where I really struggled. If it weren't for someone going to bat for me and getting someone over top of me who trained me properly, who
Mhm.
knows what would happen in my life. And that goes for anything in my life, my past life in sports, where I had coaches who took an interest in me and taught me, communicated with me, aligned me to be successful. Those are the people who had the biggest influences in my life. And I want to deliver the same thing to others. So it kind of came natural. I believe it's heaven sent, God, Mother Nature,
Mhm.
whatever it was, it happened happened
Mhm.
for me and I embraced it. I am grateful for that because those small times where I was not happy, I can empathize with people not being in a career they enjoy and not
Mhm.
having passion for what they do.
Mhm.
So,
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to
my
come on
pleasure.
for this interview. I really enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again later. And all the best.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.